I think when we first started to plan for this event last year, we had a little thing happen in the park last year that prevented us from doing this event. But when we were planning this originally, I think there was like 20 people that were going to come, and it's great to have such a great turnout from all of you who played such a great role in helping progress this facility. I'm Cam Shawley. I'm the superintendent of Yellowstone, and it's a privilege to be here in this kind of critical point in time, a pivotal point when it comes to the future of bison management. Most of you know that everything we do here in Yellowstone is built on a foundation of relationships and trust, and that all of the things that have to come together and all the partnerships that have to work to make something like this happen is really incredible, and it transcends Yellowstone. And everything that we do inside that park affects what happens outside the park. And things that happen outside the park, as you all know, affect what happens inside the park. And the better that we know each other, and the better that we can work together to achieve common objectives, the better the park is going to be, the better the wildlife is going to be. And if you think about 100 years ago, there were less than 25 bison in Yellowstone National Park. That's not that long ago. Last year was Yellowstone's 150th anniversary, and we reached a record number of almost 6,000 bison. And we've managed that together. For the tribal partners that are here, you are absolutely essential to the success in helping us manage not only bison, but many other aspects of Yellowstone effectively. And we thank you for your partnership. Before I go any further, and I'll introduce the speakers here shortly, I'd like to invite Leroy Stewart, who's the Bison Project Director of the Crow Nation, up to do an opening prayer. Leroy, thank you.
Go ahead. Valehtieks vakkali. Ikäkin ne pagevat vieläkin bisee. Ikä koi vielä kekut päivä sekä tilipsappo sekä tos hahalla ikä. Oli sääri ikä. Oli lauhuu, oli hili liimaatik jos ikä kırkavi ikä. Niillä aikki on ikä. Taas on russittak, pääsit jos ikä. Ja ikä, ihmises, just päivä ikä. Kas se ikä. No mä sitten itse asiassa tuossa korkkaviikko ikä. Ei mulla paljon kirjoissa koko jesse oikein ikä. Ja mä ei suistakin kounalaakin ikä. Heillä sekin oikein, mä ajattelin käydä koko ajan ikä. Koko jesse viikko, kun se hoitsi koko. Ikä paljon jo ikä hieman yhtenä viikko. Well, thank you. And that prayer was for all of us to be able to use one heart, one mind, and come to good solutions to advance the buffalo on this earth where they belong. We all share the same feeling, and I believe that if we all work together, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to say this prayer. I've asked 7 bulls to come in and work with us and touch our hearts and our minds so that we would all be working together. Thank you.
We now are honoring our trust responsibilities to American Indian tribes that were here in this area long before, 10,000 years or more before Yellowstone became a park, through tribal hunting and harvest in this area. Thanks to the state of Montana, in 2015, they granted tolerance zones that allowed bison to move outside of Yellowstone, here in the northern boundary and over on the west. That's a step. We are now shipping the record low number of bison to slaughter. 15 years ago, we shipped over 1,300 bison to slaughter in a single year. I fundamentally have a serious problem as a superintendent of Yellowstone in shipping bison to slaughter. It's probably one of the most unpopular things to the American public, and it's something that we need to work together to move away from. This facility was begun by the team here in Yellowstone, by my predecessor. In 2016, it was started, and the goal was to be able to capture bison and put them through a protocol and test them and make sure that they were brucellosis free. And once that happened, they could be transferred and restored to tribal lands around the country. And that's exactly what we've done to date. Up until this point, it's been relatively fledgling, small, 45, 50 bison per year. We decided to expand this facility in 2021. Many of you played a role in that, the Greater Yellowstone Coalition, Yellowstone Forever, the tribes, in helping us expand and more than double the capacity of this facility and really take it from a fledgling level, an idea, into a real tool that can be used for bison management. And so far, we've shipped over almost 300 bison to our partners, the Assiniboine Sioux at Fort Peck, who've done a tremendous job in transferring bison or taking bison from Yellowstone, and with our partners from the Intertribal Buffalo Council, transferring those bison to 23 tribes in 12 states, as far west as Alaska and as far east as Michigan. We captured 282 bison this year in this facility, in this expanded facility, which is, think about it, is more or almost as many as we've transferred to date.
And I'd like to congratulate Cam and all of his people that he talked about here today of making this happen, of being able to bring those animals out of here alive. I'd like to recognize some of the board members and the staff that we have from ITBC here with us. And if they would, just like Cam, if it's okay if I brought them up and had them be recognized, they're the people too that are working with us to bring buffalo back and bring them out of here alive and bring them out to tribes, and that's our mission. Delbert Chisholm, who's with all the way from New Mexico. If you'd come up, Delbert. Curtis, if you would come up. And Majel is a big part of ITBC. Been with us a lot of years. And as Cam said, a real big supporter. I think Megan, where's Megan at? There she is. I think we do have some interns that are with us that they'd come on up, be recognized. Troy's there here, but Troy's going to speak in a little bit, but he can come up and stand here. He's our director. And Leroy, yeah, Leroy has been with ITBC for a lot of years also, many years. Shayna is there, she's our marketing and there taking the movies and the pictures and keeping us all there. So these people have been a part of ITBC for many years, and as I said, working to return buffalo back. So it's a good day to be here and see this facility expanded, as Cam was talking about too. And what we're about, ITBC, was to bring more animals out of here alive to the tribes. And I guess it was in 1996-98 that we were here, and the slaughter was going on, and ITBC litigated to stop the slaughtering of those animals. And we also then were one of the first ones put in proposal to have a quarantine facility as this, and then to have them go out of here again live. and go out to tribes. You know, it's our history as tribal people. As Cam said, there was only 25 or 50 animals here to start. Buffalo were killed to near extinction and made way for cattle, made way for ranching. And I always talk about how they wanted to get rid of buffalo and consequently get rid of Indians, but the buffalo are still here, we're still here, and we're still fighting to bring them back to our culture. They're a big part of us culturally, spiritually. They belong in all of our ceremonies. And just as Leroy said, and our chairman from the Fort Peck, they're our relatives. And they're one and the same with us. I always look at how them animals were put here. And then when they left, they were shot. They weren't allowed to leave. They go right along the same as when we as Indian people were put on reservations and we weren't allowed to leave. That's our history. In our own country. And that's the way it is here too. The buffalo is their own country. And they're not allowed to leave. They're not allowed to go out like all the other wildlife that are out there. You can go anywhere. Elk, deer, moose, they're all out there. Nothing said. But one buffalo gets out there and everybody's up in arms. Kill that buffalo. Don't let him be out there. So our mission as ITBC is to save those animals and bring them back. Bring them back out to our lands. Have those genetics put into our herds.
What I said was, hello relatives, with a good heart I shake your hand. My name is Troy Heinert. I'm a Sichangu Lakota from the Rosebud Reservation and the Executive Director of Intertribal Buffalo Council. Now, as you all know, Indigenous people in Buffalo have had a connection since time immemorial. As we've went around to our tribes and we hear their creation stories, many of them reflect back to being once the Buffalo Nation. You can't help but wonder what place those tribes would be if what happened to Buffalo didn't happen. But through all of our efforts, especially National Park, all of you, ITBC, everybody who's had a hand in this, we see some young ones around in the audience today. They will never know a time where Yellowstone buffalo don't exist. And that is important. That is important for all of us. It's important to think about the future and what does this hold. Now I can report to you that earlier in March, I did fly over the herd that's in Alaska with the Yellowstone bulls. And they are living truly as wild as can be. There are no fences. Their fence is the ocean. And they have split into their family groups. And it was so awe-inspiring to know that they are thriving and helping that tribe reach their goal of sustainable buffalo herds for their people and create that relationship that many indigenous cultures have. So in our language, when we say today is a good day, we say le umpetuki washtealo. And today is definitely a good day. Thank you for having us, and thank you for all of your efforts.
It's an honor to be here today and to just say a few quick words with such an amazing lineup of speakers and in front of all of you. As the director of an organization whose mission is to conserve the land, water, and wildlife of this amazing place, today is a bright, shining day. It's a milestone, really. Our organization just turned 40 years old, and for that entire time, and many of you for longer, and the Park Service with its mission have been working towards advancing bison conservation. And it's incremental and it's stepwise, but today's a big day. More animals will get out of this park alive and to where they need to be because of the great work that's been done here. So much of the narrative around bison is negative and is centered in conflict. And I wanted just to talk about that for a quick second. It's all of our job, as I see it, to change that. And as we change the public narrative around bison, we will see actions follow behind that in the social and political world that will open up new doors for bison conservation and restoration. But we all have a role to play in that. So much of the narrative is centered around things like disease or hunting, or shipment to slaughter, or issues with livestock and that sort of thing. Let's start talking more about restoration and about healing and really everything that this program is about. Let's do it in our circles of influence. Let's do it to the bigger megaphones that we all can have access to through the media, through our own social media, through our spheres of influence. The narrative needs to change, and I believe that as we change the narrative on bison conservation and restoration, we will see gains along the way. And this program represents this. It's when I think about this work, we did a whole lot more than raise some money to expand some fencing here at this location. What we did was we created hope, and we created an avenue for healing. And the work that the tribes are doing, the vision that they have, the work through the Buffalo Treaty, I find it so incredibly inspiring and so different than what you typically read about when you pick up a paper in this region. When it's about some fight, some conflict, some political disagreement over bison that most of the time carries no water, or shouldn't anyways. Let's talk more about creating herds on tribal and other public lands where these magnificent creatures have been gone for 150 or 200 years. Let's talk more about restoring bison to their first lands and their first people. Let's talk more about all of the amazing ecological, cultural, economic, spiritual benefits of having bison back on the landscape. Let's talk more about the power of working together at the intersection of wildlife conservation and what is good for people. Let's talk more about how this program will both help manage Yellowstone's bison long-term. At the same time, it restores herds across this country. I see this as both the culmination of a lot of great work and partnership, but also a step along the way. I hope you do too.
As Cam mentioned, we have, I think, 85 parks in our Intermountain region. I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, but I will just say that every time I come here, I am blown away not only by the resources here, but by the quality of the employees here, the quality of the leadership, and the quality of the partnerships. So once again, I'm really impressed. I'm honored to be back in Yellowstone today for this special event and the opportunity to celebrate some success with our bison conservation efforts and to recognize our great partnerships. And I'll just speak from the Park Service and Department of Interior perspective. The bison is incredibly important. We showcase our admiration and respect for the national mammal, our bison, not only on the Department of Interior logo, but also on the National Park Service arrowhead, as you've all probably noticed, just recognizing the importance of bison to our nation's history, to the culture of our country, to the ecosystems in our country. We in the Intermountain region of the National Park Service really work to support the Interior Department's work restoring wild and healthy populations of American bison. We do that through collaboration like what we see today, both across Department of Interior bureaus and with partners such as other federal agencies, states, tribes, landowners, nonprofits, and the multitude of people that we heard about as part of that symphony. We want to use, of course, the best available science and work with our tribal partners to incorporate their indigenous knowledge. Within our region, we are working on collaborative bison conservation work in and around a variety of national parks, much of it led by our tribal partners, such as the efforts led by our Blackfeet partners around Glacier National Park, the ANI Initiative, working at Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve, the Grand Canyon, There are many examples, but I would say Yellowstone continues to really set the bar with the partnerships, the just incredible amount of work and history that's gone into the successes that we're celebrating today. And as Cam mentioned, and many speakers have mentioned, the protection and recovery of bison here is really one of the great triumphs of American conservation. I'm really proud of the leadership here that we're seeing from Yellowstone, both in bison conservation, but also with tribal engagement and partnerships. I'm incredibly grateful to the staff here at Yellowstone and to Cam for his exemplary leadership, and really grateful for the incredible leadership that we've seen from our tribal partners, from our federal, state, and nonprofit partners as well. We wouldn't be here today if it weren't for all of your efforts.
It is truly an honor to be part of the event today, something that has been decades and decades in the works. Cam's right. I was here when the old Gardner Road was open, reestablishing access from Gardner into Yellowstone following the catastrophic flood. There was a reason I felt compelled to do that, in addition to honoring the monumental work that went into, in record time, reopening that access point. What Cam didn't mention is the previous time I had visited the park was a few days before the flood, and so I felt maybe some guilt or something about whether I brought it upon the park, and I still feel like I'm making amends. And there's a big reason for that. This is, for all the reasons that folks have stated more eloquently than I can, this truly is the heart of America, good, bad, and otherwise. And part of what is represented in this effort of bison recovery and reintroducing bison and family members to where they belong is the national story of America making amends. We have so much to be proud of as Americans. We have so much yet to do, and we have so much in front of us to overcome. And this bison restoration effort and all of the work on every level, including highly technical, contributes to that. And it is an honor for me, an honor of a lifetime, to be the deputy to someone like Deb Holland, who brings exactly that perspective into everything we do at the Interior Department. She's the third Interior Secretary I've worked for. She has probably taught me more than anyone else has in my career. And I've listened to her speak about the United States, about the Interior Department, about the work we have in front of us. And a centerpiece of all of that has been bison and bison conservation, bison recovery, and reintroducing family members throughout the United States. And that is why a centerpiece of what she has put forward has been the secretarial order she had us issue, and she issued on bison. It comes with, all of the hard work and sometimes controversy that these things do. But to listen to her speak, to see the emotion and the feeling of shared burden when she talks about bison really sums it up. And so it's an honor for me to be here on behalf of Secretary Holland, on behalf of the department, on behalf of the Biden administration, to truly thank everyone and all of the partnerships that have gone into this moment, and to look ahead to the future. The fact that we are where we are and the arduous and hard work it has taken to get here shows we can do hard things together. We can rebuild, we can make amends, and we can gain acceptance. And that is truly what this moment captures.